Hello, folks. Welcome to the show, Jack Xiao on East West with GNE TV. Well, it's been a while. Last time we had our series of what's up at the Assembly of California. Now we're continuing doing it, and this is our second session of the discussion of what's up at the Assembly of California. With me today is my good friend, is a reliable friend of this community, Mr. Kurt Hackman, Assemblyman of the 52nd District. 55th. 55th District of California. Mr. Kurt Hackman, welcome to my show.
Great to be on, Jack. Thanks for having me again.
Sure. And I do love my job. It's not a job, it's a privilege, because I can talk to people face to face, right? And any people. Now, people, well, big shot such as you.
No, you're the big shot. Everyone knows it.
Like or even a school teacher, or even preschool teacher, or something like that. Yes, at California, at the Assembly in California, and there are lots of stories going on. And recently we heard less and less while we're approaching to the season. So actually, I don't think there is a vacuum there, but what is going on?
Yeah, well, it's by design how we're set up. We start in January, we go make a whole bunch of proposed laws, and by the end of September, we're done debating those laws. The governor has a month to sign them, and then those things take effect in January. So technically, we're out of session. Like you said, there's still a lot of things always going on.
All right, okay.
But our focus is not on writing new laws for California. Our focus is on gathering information, coming back to our districts. Like in my case, I have 12 cities and 3 counties now. So I go visit my cities, I go visit my school districts and my counties and say, what are your issues, what are your problems, how the things we've done over the last couple of years affected you, and to get ideas for the next cycle. So it's a lot more in district events, a lot, it's the holiday season's coming up, so there's a lot more, there's swearing events, like all this coming weeks are a bunch of new local electeds being sworn in that I have to go do, as well as, getting around and being seen again, because when you're going up 4 days a week to Sacramento, you kind of lose touch of what's going on in your district.
In other words, this is kind of the home kind of homework.
Yes.
Right. Touch base of homework.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different things. And then what we're here is my staff is in the Capitol are working on bill ideas that we've had throughout the year that now's the time to reintroduce in January, and to do hopefully the background, the research necessary to make sure they're good laws.
Sure, all right.
And to get the folks for it or against it lined up, and try to find out what we need to do to change things.
Sure. In other words, if I propose to look back into the past year, or the year that is passing by now, to get kind of an overall review or a sum up of the bills or important things, would that be a good approach?
Sure, sure.
So, to your knowledge, or the way you feel, what it was or what has it been the best law or laws that you guys have passed during the past year?
Well, I think we'll look at a global perspective. The budget for California is stable, which when you have a certainty, and so many people rely on the money that comes through the state and through the federal government back to local governments and to contractors, subcontractors, those type of things. To have a stabilized budget really helps. Get some confidence back in the market. So I think our probably best, it was a pretty smooth year compared to other years I've been in the legislature for the most part, and the governor's held the line fairly good on expanding the budget too far. Now remember, last year we voted ourselves another big tax, so we have a lot more money coming in. That's a lot to do with it. But it'd be very easy to grow the government that much quicker versus paying off debt and doing things. So it's kind of like a settling year of let's get our base solid again on a financial basis.
Yeah, speaking of the budget, of course we're doing better, but nothing come out without a price. Right. It was a week ago I was in the city of Rosemead, and I heard them complaining about the state government still taking money from the local government.
Yes.
So it is ongoing, it's a norm now. How can we stop that? Or are we allowing them to continue like that exactly? Because local money is kind of really the they sweat money.
Correct. And what it had is some cities like Rosemead and others had a redevelopment agency that was keeping part of their property tax dollars locally versus giving to the state. Those redevelopment agencies were voted out actually 2 years ago, but they're still in disagreements on how much money goes back to the state, and it probably will be for several years more to go. So it depends how far back and what you define as redevelopment projects, what should be left in the money, what shouldn't be, and the state's saying give that money back. I did not support that, by the way. I supported leave the money with the local governments.
Of course, yeah.
But they're still going to debate that over years to come and probably sue each other over it in some cases. And that's why they're very, a lot of the cities, a lot of local governments are very unhappy with the state at this point.
I did notice that you were saying that during a couple of years or maybe a few more, things will change. In other words, this is not a norm. This is just still temporary.
This was a change in policy. After 30 years going one way, the governor changed it to another way. So keep in mind that many cities, or most cities, did not have the redevelopment money to begin with. But there's some very older cities that were established a long time ago that had that extra source of income that most cities didn't have it. My home city of Chino Hills has never had redevelopment, so we didn't lose anything when the state took it back. We kept the same. So, but some cities had a lot of good work doing with redevelopment. That's there's not a lot of economic tools at a local level. They don't have big check accounts to say, look, I want your project to go in, let me help you. The redevelopment was decided to do that, to bring jobs and redevelopment to areas that needed it over a period of time. I think there is a future we should look at a way that every city gets to keep more of its money for economic development purposes.
Especially those cities like Cerritos, like Arcadia, who are better off, supposedly relatively better off than the rest of the folks on the reserve side, are getting numbers cutting down and down and down to the bottom, to the bone. So
Cerritos got hit hard, and they're losing. And what it was is, if you have two operations, the normal operations you have for a city with retail sales tax, a portion of your property tax, that's what a lot of cities have to work on. And then you have this extra set of money that was called redevelopment. That means you kept a bigger share of your property tax than other cities did. That's what they were living on for a long time. So this part can go in the bank.
Of course, it's logic. It's logic. If there is no redevelopment money, there is no redevelopment.
Correct.
So nothing comes free, right? Okay. Correct. Now, if we had to do that. If we had to do it 2 years in a row, down the road, 3 years down the road, take it as a temporary, we just bear with the pen, let it go on for a while, right? Which absolutely is not good, right? So in addition, or except the part taking money like this part, which is not good, what do you think as a policy or monetary policy that Governor Brown has done good, has done a better job?
Yeah, well, I just want to clarify, the redevelopment is gone forever now. It's not a temporary thing, it's going to be gone.
Oh, no?
Yeah, it's that whole section of extra money the city's got, a lot of cities got, will never come back unless we write a new law that says we think. And coming from a city you do not have redevelopment, there were always the haves and haves not. A third of cities had redevelopment money, 2/3 of the cities did not at the beginning of this. And I think every city should have a piece of that. So hopefully
then who will be in charge of redevelopment?
They would still have to do it out of the operation, out of the money they get, not the extra money.
Oh, I see.
So there's a lot of restrictions to that redevelopment. It's only for certain properties, certain areas, only for certain things. And I think we should give more freedom to the cities to do things like road improvements, or let me prep that land for you. Otherwise, these developments won't happen. But the private sector still should be able to come in and work out something with the city.
Look at the local city's point of view. Whatever amount of dollar you're talking about, you're still talking about their sales tax.
Correct.
Right? Their property tax. When they have XYZ number of shops, when they have XYZ numbers of projects or whatever where it's taxable, the income revenue is a fixed.
Correct.
It's a fixed number, right?
Correct.
So now that, how do you call it a different story? They have only this much money.
Correct.
You take it, and there's a chunk off.
Yes.
So that's when I look at it. Name-wise, doesn't make a big difference,
no,
does it?
It doesn't. And what's really, when I was on the statewide board for the League of Cities, which represents the cities back when I was as a mayor and council. And I didn't realize till I got up there that almost every city has a different finance formula. For example, Chino and Chino Hills, two neighboring cities side by side. One's a lot older than the other. Chino got, I think it's 21 cents per property tax dollar, plus they had redevelopment. Okay, Chino Hills, being a newer city after Prop 13, only got 2.86 cents.
Oh.
So literally 1/9 the same amount of money as Chino did. Other cities had 0 property tax dollars on their deal, but had a lot more in redevelopment. So when they took redevelopment, they had no more income left at all. So the whole system of financing cities, each one was negotiated with the county that they came from when they incorporated. And some of those cities don't have much income at all compared to other cities that are very wealthy. So regardless of the redevelopment, the city finance system is very inequitable. It's not logic, there's no rhyme or reason to it. And some of those cities have a lot of money and some don't have very much money. But it is all based off sales tax and property tax.
But it has lots of things to do with their autonomous rights, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, as a city, you have your own laws, you rent you manage your own money, stuff like that. It belongs to these autonomous rights, whatever. I don't know how it relates to the state level. Anyway, let's take a very short moment. Those are very important information. For that, you read development money. I never know about that. All right, good. There will be no more redevelopment money unless we rewrite the laws. That's the piece of news I heard from my good friend, Mr. Kurt Hackman, Assemblyman over the 55th District of Southern California. So let's take a short hold. We'll be back right away. Hello, my dear folks. Welcome back to the show. Dear Californians, dear responsible Californians, welcome back to the discussion. Joining me today is my good friend, a reliable friend, very trustworthy, reliable friend, from Mayor of Chino Hills all the way to California Assembly, and also floor leader of the California Assembly Republican Party, Mr. Kurt Hackman. One more time, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jack.
I especially thank you for the brand new information that I learn from you each time. There's something to catch up. That's why this show is called What's Up at the Assembly, right? So it looks like there's something is up, right? Not much, but something is up. We were talking about giving a score to Governor Brown for the past year. I was proposing saying that except the monetary decision or monetary approach of the city redevelopment laws, or the redevelopment money, which is considered, at least on my side, not as a very positive. What else Governor Brown has done, you think you give him a positive score?
Well, being the leader of the opposite party.
Money-wise.
Yeah, on the fiscal side, I think he's kept the growth of government down less than previous administrations.
All right.
So there's always things we could throw money at. We could grow education, we could grow social services, we could grow prisons, we could grow all this stuff. And the governor's trying to hold the line because he knows we got a temporary bump in income. Right now we have a multi-billion-dollar surplus coming into next year's budget. And if you go on to buy something on your credit card, you got 30 years to pay for it, but the income's only there for 1 year, you're gonna have problems. And that's what we got problems before. So he's trying to focus this on one-time expenditures. And I have my ideas. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of other people with ideas for one-time expenditures. So on the fiscal side, I would give him, except for some of the policy aspects of the fiscal side. I do not like his taxes. I think taxing our businesses too much. But with the money that he did get in, because the people of California voted those taxes in, that he's managed it pretty well.
I realize that being a leader of the Republican Party of California, you speak very fairly. You give him whatever is supposed to be positive, a positive. On the negative side, and there's a truth that everybody can see, right? Now, speaking of the fact that California, instead of running red, now we have something black, called a surplus. We don't know how long that will last, but we have all problems. We do understand as voters, as taxpayers, we do understand nothing takes no money, right? Everything has a price to it. And we can, if we have money, we have good reason to do anything. You can't criticize me if I put some money on the road, right? You can't put me in jail if I put some money to beautify our trees. So everything is necessary. However, we have a prioritization on the table, right?
Prioritization and efficiency.
Efficiency, right? Okay, now.
Do you spend it wisely?
Sure, sure. Now that we all know that we're lack of prisons, prison space is a big problem. Why do not we use the surplus money to put up some free prisons so that we will be kind of getting better, kind of better with the release, with the prisoner early release program that caused lots of turbulences in the communities, the whole California, especially Southern California. Why don't we do that?
No, that's one of our big issues that we're going to fight for this year. We're definitely against Governor's AB 109, which is the refigured from state prisoners to county jails.
Sure.
Now remember, the state prisons are ones for long stays. A year longer, that was the general definition. The county jails are more of a temporary holding facility for someone to go to court, to someone to wait to see if they're guilty.
You're right.
He changed that with one law that says now the local facilities that are owned and managed and operated by the counties to now be long-term holding facilities.
Like doing prison times.
Yeah, in LA County, there's people being sentenced to 42 years in LA County Jail. It's going to be very disastrous. We would like to see more capacity. We'd like to see more programs. We want to make sure these people, after they do their time, can assimilate back in so they don't go back to jail again. It's a lot cheaper for us that way. And we haven't seen a lot of leadership on that part at all. On both sides. I proposed myself like 5 or 6 bills to help that situation. They never make them out of committee so far. So we're very frustrated in that. The crime rates are going up. And I think what he was looking at, the governor was looking at, well, we're spending 25% of our budget on prisons and public safety. I want to hold that down to 20%. And whatever way it takes, that's what I want to do. So this governor is very fiscally minded, regardless of the public policy or the impact it may have. Like I said,
I have no problem with a governor who is very fiscally minded, but sometimes you can't be stingy.
You have to be prioritized
on dispatching monies quite necessary. I would say there's no more issues more seriously, more critical than release prisoners premature.
Yeah.
Talking about some guys who has committed like over 100 rapes. Those are monsters.
Yeah,
those are monsters. They're on the street.
We have a list of about 17 people came out and murdered people after they got released early.
See that?
17,
Yeah.
17 murders so far. And Jack, be careful, because you're starting to sound like a Republican. That's what difference in the priorities of our political philosophies. For Republicans, generally, we are fiscal conservative, and we hold education and public safety the 2 highest things. We figure without a good education system, without good, safe streets, everything else is secondary. On the Democrat side, it's not that way. Okay, and so that's our debate. So what are the prioritizations of it? This surplus money coming in, I've already heard things. We want to expand social services. We want to expand Medi-Cal. We want to expand, all these different things that are ongoing costs. And we got to a point where the state, where I believe 53% of the population of California now receives some kind of benefit from the state. So when you have 50% of the population receiving money in, some kind of resources, and less than 10% paying for 80% of that in the state, sooner or later those 10% people are going to leave. Because it's not a fair system.
There's no money.
There's nothing left. And that's what we've been seeing over the last decade. And we're saying we have to stay competitive with other states in order to keep those wealthier people here.
Sure. Let's get one issue at a time. But before that, I would like to make a little statement that we're not talking about partisan issues. We're talking about money, right?
Sure.
It may happen to be Republicans thinking this way, Democrats thinking the other way. It is just coincidence that way.
Correct.
For that, I'd say I like the ideas. I'm not a Republican, but I like the ideas. That's it. And on the other day, probably there are Democrats' ideas that I like better,
too.
Which is the same case, right? In this case, my whole thing, as a responsible citizen, I would say that our security matters no less than anything, if it's not the top one, right? So now, for that, we number one understand we need it. Number two, we had the money. I don't understand why we wouldn't do it.
Correct.
So you said that you'll be still putting bills together or ideas of bills together to keep on fighting starting next year, just starting next January. So how do you expect? What do you want to do? What do you planning on doing?
Well, I think there's different ways of approaching the overcrowded situation in California. One is I would not be sending them to the county jails. They're not set up for long-term stays. The medical facilities, stuff like that, are lacking in the county jail. One of the ideas we have is in each prison we have right now, we have a certain amount of prisoners that are in medical care. They have to be transported from the prison to a hospital and back and forth all the time, which is very costly.
Oh yeah, of
so
course.
The two prisons
and
I want to build,
concern too.
Yeah, and you have to send 4 officers with them,
you have to
and
guard
all
them.
the rest of them. So one of my ideas is you build a north and a south prison with medical facilities. That's what they
Everything.
are. A medical hospital or
Like
prison hospital.
Like enclosed.
Yes, everything's enclosed right there. And you put your worst prisoners who need the medical care on an ongoing basis in these facilities. So that increases capacity, plus it saves costs of the transportation and outsourcing the medical care. So the ones that you have left over are hopefully more healthier ones. And of course, if there's an accident or a problem, they would still be taken, but less frequency. And those are 2 ways that I would hope that you build it. Now, it's not just the building cost, but you also have the operational cost to build it. And we talked about being efficient. I sit on the board that passed out all the money to build the schools in the state. And I could build a warehouse for $160 a square foot, a very luxurious house for $250, but it cost me $450 a square foot to build a school right now. It shouldn't cost that. It's 4 times the amount of other states because we have all these different rules and regulations built in to raise it up. Yes.
Outsourcing, right?
Well, a lot of political games are played. People are paid very good money for building these things. There's a lot of soft costs, 10, 20% just in soft costs. On a private contract, I would limit that to 5 to 8%. We overpay for the jobs, we overbuild them.
Yeah, sure.
So it's not just about having the facilities, but doing it efficiently.
Like making a film, you have the above line cost and below line cost, right?
Correct.
Sometimes the above line cost, you take all the chunks out, and below lines, there's nothing to shoot, right?
So I'd rather actually pass the stuff out to a private contractor and say, give me your best bid for this product, and then we'll take the best bid.
The fact is, everybody wants to take a bite, everybody's hungry. And then it is up to the governor, to the state legislator to make sure that number 1, we do have money. Number 2, we do have the need. Number 3, we do have the land. By the way, we do have a land.
We have lots of land.
We have the land, right? And then, well, so if there's a bill, I'll vote for it. Can
I get you elected up there first, and I'll get you the job.
No, I never do that. Okay, let's take a short movement out. I have lots of better things to do rather than a politician. I'm not looking down upon you. I'm talking about, I'm not that type. I'll get angry. I'll pound on the table. I'll start throwing my shoes at people probably.
There we go.
All right, good, right? So let's take a short moment out. When we come back, we'll find out what's up. So stay with us. Hello, dear friends, greetings. Belated happy Thanksgiving. And it's too early to say Merry Christmas, but anyway, we're in the mood of celebrating a year which is a rough year, very rough year. And I call it very, very rough because we have bad things happening all throughout the years. Finally, we come to a little kind of a respite and to see what will happen next year. So to take a review of what we have been doing as California, as one of the biggest state of California, of the United States, we believe that we deserve something better, even though we are doing much better than before. Still, there are things to do. Joining me is a reliable source of information, is a trustworthy, long-time tested friend of the community, Mr. Kurt Hackman, the Assemblyman of California State Assembly, and also he is the floor leader of Republican Party of California. One more time, still welcome to my show.
That's great, Jack. Thanks.
And thank you very much once again for the info that you pass along to my audience through this show. And I do believe my audience, one of the reasons my audience like this show is because that we try to be very informative. Right, good. Now, we understand the prison thing, prison issue, you guys still determined to continue, right?
Correct.
And then next thing is about education, right?
Lots of changes this year.
Lots of changes this year, right?
Starting next year.
I've been talking to my guests regarding, in the education area for several times. People tell me that they are not seeing a whole picture yet. They know something big is going to happen. How big, do not know. How exactly, do not know. So what can you bring us update about what's going to happen?
Well, there's a couple of things. There's, again, the operations and then the infrastructure. Okay, operations, California has agreed to switch to the Common Core testing for kindergarten through 12th graders. Common Core emphasizes more math, science, English, the STEM type of stuff.
Sure.
And we have dropped nationally or internationally on that standing, and I think it's a very good mission. We also, part of the Common Core is to transition from the books and paper to more online testing and a little more data, which I'm totally supportive. I wrote many bills to try to bring our technology into our classroom. It comes with a price tag. We're not there yet. Okay, so I'm the one Republican. There's one Democrat legislative member that sits on a subcommittee for a new bond that we may be proposing to put out next November to build up the infrastructure of schools.
All right.
One of the bills I will introduce for that surplus money we talked about is to give each classroom, each school district, each school site enough money to make the campus wireless, a secure wireless, which government doesn't do very well in the IT world, but I'm hoping that we could partner up with a Cisco or somebody else to bring at least the wireless part to it. That was what I would consider be infrastructure. Tablets and lap books and things like that I would consider to be education materials. I don't want to bond out 30-year bond money on something that's going to last 3 or 5 years. So
like LAUSD over their iPad issues.
Yes,
they were doing a big time.
Yeah, I kind of beat them up quite a bit in as much as I could on that because I think it's a mistake. You go to the voters and say, I want bond money. I want billions of dollars to build new schools for your kids, and people are generous to vote for it.
Rather than the gadgets.
And then they turn around and buy gadgets. That's not going to last them. They're going to be paying on that money for 30 plus years. Same type of thing in the state. The state is a partner of every school district in the state. We generally put in 50% of the money, and our local district puts in 50% of money. Sometimes districts put in more, and there's some exceptions where some they don't have it. We pay it for all of it. But we're responsible for helping building the schools and the infrastructure part of it.
Exactly.
And I would like to see, my vision is by next year that every campus in California has wireless capability to do education, to do their testing, to help the students get their stuff. And eventually I'd like to see us take a lead on a super website where education is supposed to be free and available to all in any language. Let's make it that way. We can log in, you can learn about your geometry terms or your trigonometry or whatever the case may be, and that will supplement what the schools do. And I know like my son wanted to take a certain class, it wasn't offered on his high school, but when the other high schools have it. So you could do distance learning. So I think it's a huge step forward, and we're behind right now. I believe we're behind. And I think that honestly, the biggest part that's holding us back are the teachers. There's many teachers in my son's school. We have one of the top schools in the state that haven't even adopted the technology they have right now, putting their grades online, the homework. And I talked to my school board, and they say they cannot force them in contract. So the newer generation of teachers have embraced technology. They use their email, they use their online stuff. The older generation needs to step up and learn it, and we need to give them the resources to grab it and then throw in it, and we haven't done that as a state yet either.
Okay. How much is this related, money related to the fact that you have a large union contract? You have lots of teachers or faculties who are not in the classroom first front, the front line, supportive team, call it, including janitors. I'm not talking about knockdown. People are not needed. I'm talking about how does this issue related to all of them?
The teachers, there's a CTA, California Teacher Association, there's subgroups in that. There's also the non-teaching unions. But the CTA, my understanding, has been very reluctant to go forward with this stuff. And they're one of the more powerful lobbying groups, one of the more powerful groups in the state as far as union goes. For my people, I have a lot of friends who are teachers, they're telling me it's the mood is starting to change. I finally say, hey, we got to adopt this. Okay, so what do we need to do to adopt this? I think once we hit there, these kids are so bright. Most of them, you see little babies walking around with their parents' phones and playing games on them already. They're going to really adapt to this. Now we have to be careful because we don't want all their information coming from not having interaction, but by texting. I've seen some teens text each other and sit next door to each other.
Exactly.
It's like the art of conversation is still important. The art of engaging and debating is still very important. But it's a tool that we need to integrate as quickly as we can and have those resources available to them.
I do like that kind of visionary sense of responsibility, because if you check with our kids these days, I made a test the other day with a 6-year-old. I showed him 0, 3, 2, 0, and with the column in between, and he says 3:20, which means time. And I put a clock, analog clock there, 3:20. Look at what is that?
No, exactly. They have a whole new different way.
He can't recognize the analog, the hands, right? But they do the numbers.
Sure.
I'm not saying that the numbers are wrong. I'm saying that we're losing something.
Yeah, and here's some issues that I didn't realize that I'll be working on this year as well. If to be a teacher in California, you can't be credentialed as a computer science major. So you could be English, philosophy, you could be all these other things, but not computer science. Why? That needs to be part of it. I think computer classes need to be part of the core classes you take for math and science. It should be an option. Right now it's elected. You cannot pretty much operate any job now without having some interaction. Even the new farm equipment, I look at them, they're all computerized. You program it to what height. So you need this basic foundation for a new job, and it has to be an integral part of our K through 12. The next series of technologies I've seen with the books is not so much, reading Washington Cross to Delaware and see the picture of Washington. There are videos that come alive. They're self-assessing software.
There are some basic skills we're losing.
Yeah,
during our time,
we
do mathematics or geometry. We use our own paper. We draw curves. We do charts, and we do our angles. We use the ruler. Back and forth, like that kind of. So now everything you're doing on the computer.
Yeah, and we still teach cursive writing, for example.
Exactly.
But the only time I really use cursive writing more is to sign our name. Everything else is typed or emailed or faxed or that kind of thing.
Exactly.
So I think we have to reassess what the common basic foundation of education is and bring as many tools as we can. I mean, education still, no matter what country or where you're part of the world, has to be the top of the ladder, because that's your best and brightest going to come up and fill the jobs.
This Thanksgiving, I received lots of thank you notes. Some are all, by the way, thank you to my audience who sent me cards on the past Thanksgiving. As a matter of fact, I'm the one to be thankful to you. And instead, I'm receiving your thank you notes. So for that, I'll give you a big bow and big appreciation. But the thing is that among all of your notes, and I reserve only one on the wall. I didn't say that I throw them away. I just put up one on the wall that has a beautiful cursive writing. I said, my God, people still write that way? Oh, let me collect it. Yeah, I take that as a collectible item, as a souvenir, and it's hanging on my wall now. So I'm saying that it's a kind of a waste, kind of pity to lose what we have already.
Correct.
Let alone the fact that it's hard to learn one. So once we have, do not lose it. So if our education system, through your hands, the legislature will do something like I recommended, that will be, I'll be so grateful for it.
No, we're hoping that we could do this stuff. I believe, we are falling behind. We need to expand our minutes in our education day. We need to expand our education days. When I went over to China, I love the fact that the youth were learning the secondary language, first and second grade. We wait till high school before we offer it. By then it's too hard. No one wants to learn anymore. That's why we need to really update what we do and really use technology to augment that.
Especially these days, you have a second language, you have a second world.
Yeah, and it needs to be. The United States is too egotistical. Everyone should speak English. No, we need to learn other languages. And not just make it elective, but we should make it part of their growing up experience.
Especially when U.S. and China will have $4 trillion related to each other. Well, you got to be learned to bilingual.
Well, for all those who are, they're that much more advantage.
More job opportunities. All right, let's take a very short moment now. When we come back, we'll move our focus from the state to federal, if necessary, on few issues. Not all, but very few issues. So stay with us. Right back. Hello, my dear folks, dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show, Jack Chow on East West Show with GNE TV. Like I said 1 million times already, that I do love this show. It's not a job to me. It's an opportunity to learn lots of things on a day-to-day basis. That's why, well, I feel so confident that each time I bring you information, I feel that is the correct information. I want to make sure, at least I try to make sure that's the correct information. With me today is my good friend. Like I said, is a reliable friend to the community and a great leader, Mr. Kurt Hageman, Assemblyman of California with the 55th District and also Republican floor leader of the Assemblyman of California in the Republican Party. Now, we had 3 segments talking about money, prison, and education, stuff like that. Okay? And also we tried to give Governor Brown a reasonable score. And now let's talk about something related to federal. Okay, now, speaking of federal, we have an issue on hand right now that is Obamacare, which has been, well, such a controversy for the past 2 months, when first it was launched to be working October 1st, and now we're standing in the middle also the second week or the first week of December, and it's still not working perfectly. And then the bigger concern is about California. How California is related to Obamacare. Are we, well, exempted?
No.
Or are we
Unfortunately.
immune with the problems?
Well, right now I think the way it is Obamacare is not going to work, and California is going to be too much reliant on federal dollars. So we have our own problems on our own form. I've got a call from my insurance friend of mine who's trying to convert people from the individual plans to the exchange, and you log in as an authorized California broker, and it's not working. So right now they're faxing all their stuff to a Sacramento number. He says from all his applications he faxed since October 1, he hasn't got a single one back. Meanwhile, these people are getting very nervous because on January 1st they have no longer health care.
Cancellations you're talking about.
Yeah, they already got canceled, so they're waiting for the new policy to kick in, and they have no response from California yet. So I think we have our own IT mess on the problems. And then more bigger is going to be this next election cycle. Right now, California gets 90% of its exchange dollars from federal government as seed money until people sign up more and more in the exchange.
All right, good.
If that funding stream gets cut off, we no longer have a program. So if the political leanings tend to go where they are right now, and Republicans keep Congress and they pick up a couple seats in Senate, now control Senate, they'll cut off funding for this, and then our exchange program goes down. And it has become one of the bigger political issues of this country for the next election cycle.
Yeah, I do get confused. I am confused, and it is a big problem. I would say, once again, the same thing, the same philosophy. It looks to me, I don't care whose money, or I don't care what kind of money, it is taxpayer money. Anything government does, government takes tax money. Right? It's our money out of your pocket or my pocket. And then it is the money, right? The money, that's it. Right? Now, the second thing is that whatever you do, you guys at the legislature do, or at the federal do, just consider this. Among all these 200 plus nations in the world, there are only 20-some nations whereby people are left with no medical care. So we want to get cared. We want to be cared, to be cared with some kind of plan. Now, with that said, I believe it is smart to find a way to see how we can catch up because we're left so much behind. So that automatically rose to a question that, are we, instead of actually finding a care, rather than playing politics games?
I think it's both, obviously. The Republicans do have plans out there. And like I was saying at the beginning, it's a combination of, do you want free market medical? Do you want socialized medicine? From the Republican standpoint, there's not a lot of models outside the United States of socialized medicine that's been effective and efficient and as good as we have here. That's why most foreign heads of states and other dignitaries, people with money, come to the United States because you have the best care here. That's not because of socialized system, that's because of free market system. Now we pay for that. We pay a lot more than of our percentage of income than any other country does for that. I think you have to have one or the other. It's my old adage is you can't stand on the fork of the road for too long before you run into the tree. You got to take a left or a right. Right now, the current plan is a mixture of both, and they conflict. Socialized medicine conflicts with free market medicine. There's a lot of people on the Democrat side who want to see Obamacare fail because they want a complete one-payer system.
But even on the Republican side, there's not a specific plan. Say, this is our plan.
There is an exchange model.
There is?
Now, what they're waiting for, I think, and this is internal battles between the Republican leadership right now. Do we bring up that plan now? Do we wait closer to the election?
Oh, I see.
Then
again, the politics.
It is. It's all about the next election.
It is politics.
November 2014
but
you know,
2014, 2016, we're talking about 2-3 years ahead, right?
Yeah. Well,
the people need care right now.
Yeah. And what it is, I think, from the very foundation of this Obama plan was done the wrong way. Unless you have some bipartisan buy-in. Now, the Democrats were so happy when they had Obama as president and control of both legislatures in 2010, they did not get a single Republican vote on that. And they just shoved it in there. So now the Republicans have no buy-in. They want to see that politically fail. I heard today that, close the session of Congress today, okay, for the 2013 Congress. We passed 2,500 bills, 3,000 bills last year in the California legislature. 1,700 new laws signed into law. I think even more than that, somewhere on those numbers, but it's over 1,000. The U.S. Congress, representing all the states, only passed 62 laws last year. That's a sign of complete dysfunctional Congress. It is so polarized right now that even making a resolution
That's
saying,
why
yes,
the congressional approval is getting
worse and worse,
down to almost single digits.
And when you do that, if I go talk to a group of Republicans,
which is historical,
I could fire them up. Or I can sit there and talk to them and say, this is what their beliefs are, this is our beliefs are, let's see if we can work it out.
It's
all about rhetoric and tone.
Here's the way I look at the problem, right? First, on the Democratic side, how would they still let the program run, announcing October 1st will work, knowingly that will not work, right? On the Republican side, when they do have a plan holding on hand, let's see what is the right moment to launch it. And then, in between are the people.
A lot of people have no idea they're going to be covered.
We, the people, the parentheses taxpayers, are left in the blank of no care, and compared to the rest of the world, we are 10% of the 200 nations. That's a shame.
Yeah,
That's a
and
shame.
I want to make sure it's one thing clear. There's not a single person who absolutely needs care that doesn't get served. We're not they have insurance or not. We're talking about people having their own insurance policy, knowing what they're going to pay and stuff. But if anybody walks through our emergency clinic or a hospital right now, by federal law and by state law, they have to be served. Whether or not they can pay for it or not.
Exactly.
So everyone's getting medical care. Is it the most efficient way? No, because that person who walks in the emergency room that charges them $5,000, they could have done a doctor's office for $200.
It's
and we pay for it as taxpayers.
It's a matter of spending $500 or $5,000.
Correct.
Or even more.
It's all tax dollars regardless.
Exactly.
It's who you tax. Now for me, a single payer plan or a socialized system should be based on that sales tax base or something.
2 years ago, I got my ankle twisted, and I called an ambulance. The ambulance alone was $12,000.
12,000.
Right,
12,000 or 1,200? I mean, that's...
Oh, no, I'm sorry, the 1,200.
Okay.
I'm very sorry. I'm sorry. What's 1,200? So can you believe it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're paying...
And all I was there is that some kind of a Tylenol, and they check my pressure, and so on and so forth, and an X-ray, and to confirm there's nothing wrong, go home, take a rest, that's it.
Yeah, because you're paying for all those people walking in that can't afford to pay.
Yeah.
So that's how the Obamacare is set up as well.
I have the
More people
insurance
pay more for
coverage.
less.
I'm covered, that's why I'm still here.
Yeah.
Although otherwise I'm gone making money to pay the $1,200. So that's how important it is.
Yeah.
That's how important it is to get people
Let's
covered.
let's hope the
That's
federal
not
government
politics
gets this
at
thing
all.
resolved. And for as far as the state goes, since we're so reliant on federal dollars right now, we're really hanging on to find out what happens on the federal government.
There was one time when the Tea Party first came, people started to think about, oh wow, the third party, right? Would the third party be standing in the middle to make things go when the two are fighting on their own end, right? So now it turns out the part of the most conservative on the right-hand side, and then things are getting even worse.
More of a libertarian, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but I think it goes back to leadership. Our year has been one of the most smoother years I've had in 5 years. Not that I get along with all the Brown social agenda, I don't. But he is trying to be someone that can get both sides working.
That is the point.
I think history will show that Obama has not been a very good president because he does not coalition build.
Yeah.
He does not bring people together to come up with say, hey, we have this common problem. What is the way we can build it?
That's
he is more
exactly-
political, and I
yeah,
think that's his lack of
exactly.
experience. He's only a U.S. senator for a couple of years before he became president. He had no experience doing that before he became president. He just had all politic experience, how to push through.
But nobody was born a president, but you got to learn.
You have to have some kind
You got to
of
listen.
background experience
Yeah.
and have the temperament to work with
Yeah,
others.
you got to put your luggage away.
Correct.
Preloaded, right? That's the problem. That's the problem. And speaking of that, though, Mr. Kurt Hagman, that is the part that I like him. I adore him so much because he's got a kind of like a going across aisles concept and the ability, call it the asthma, no, not the charisma, the charisma of getting people like him from both aisles. So that's the part. So speaking of leaders, speaking of politicians, we'd rather have that kind of politicians, be he Republican, be he Democrat, I don't care, but they are the leaders we adore. That's it, right?
Yeah,
So,
no. Most of my friends are from the Democrat side too, and we do have disagreements on priorities and ways to accomplish our goals. But we generally agree on what the global priorities. What is the vision for the state? We all want a healthier, happier, economic sound state of California.
sure.
So how do we get there?
All right, very good, very good. Now we're approaching Christmas. I believe before Christmas, we won't be so lucky to see you again. So it's time for your Christmas greeting.
Yeah, I want to thank you and your station and the leadership that you have shown for the community to keep them informed for a population that really needs a voice and is really growing and prospering here in California. So thank you. Thanks C&E for doing all this stuff. I want to do my best holiday wishes and Merry Christmas to everyone's watching out there. Please remember enjoy your family and really be thankful for all of the blessings we do have in this state and this country.
Don't get sick too far.
Yeah, don't eat too much turkey. Send him all the fruit cakes.
Yeah,
he loves
good.
them for Christmas.
All right, will you write to me in right cursive, please? All right. Thank you for liking this show. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Kurt. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jack. Yeah.